الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فقال الله تبارك وتعالى في شان حبيب الكريم فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما نرشد اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم صلاة وسلام عليك سيدي يا رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليك وسلم. After praising Allah, the most glorified, the most supreme and the controller of all affairs, and after sending kindness and peace, blessings and salutations upon the best of creation, the jewel of mankind, the coolest of hearts and eyes, Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I would like to extend my greetings to those who are gathered here today by saying Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For us to fully understand the journey of Imam Hussein to Karbala, when Imam Hussein left Makkah to Mukarramah, or before when he left Medina to Munawwarah for Makkah to Mukarramah, we mentioned the meeting he had with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he made his way to Makkah to Mukarramah. They had a big welcome for him, and then after this point, when he received news from Sayyidina Muslim bin Aqil, the cousin of Sayyidina Imam Hussein, he received news that the situation in Kufa is pleasant, it is favorable. So Imam Hussein, he gathered his belongings, a few of his companions and his household, and he made his way towards Kufa. And remember, at this point, Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he wasn't informed that Sayyidina Muslim had been killed or had been martyred. He didn't know about this. All he had received was a letter from Sayyidina Muslim saying that the situation is good, that people want you here. But little did he know, but we know from yesterday's lecture, that the situation in Kufa deteriorated very quickly. Meaning the people, they all deserted Sayyidina Muslim, and this led to Sayyidina Muslim bin Aqil being martyred, and also led to a few others being martyred. And I did not mention yesterday because we didn't have time, but the two sons of Sayyidina Muslim, very, very small children, they were also martyred by Ibn Ziyad and his men. They were martyred and their heads were chopped off and they put into sacks. And these sacks were taken to Ibn Ziyad. Children, small children. But the whole story is a very lengthy story, but we don't have time for that. But this is what briefly what happened. Now, Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he made provisions to leave for Kufa. Because he thought the situation is good. And the Sahaba Kiram that were in Makkah to Mukarramah, the senior Sahaba Kiram, they all begged Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu to not leave. They knew what was going to happen. As we mentioned yesterday as well, that the companions knew that Imam Hussein is going to be martyred. That they knew that the events were going to take place at Karbala. So they pleaded with Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu that do not leave. Stay in Makkah to Mukarramah. We will provide you an army in Makkah to Mukarramah and you will fight the army of Yazid from Makkah. You don't need to go to Kufa. But Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he said it was my responsibility. There's people called me over there. I'm going to go. You can't do anything to stop me from going now. And even as he was leaving Makkah to Mukarramah, the governor of Makkah, he sent a small group of troops to stop Imam Hussein from leaving. And there's a small altercation, they began to speak, they had a conversation with each other. And then eventually the army realized that Imam Hussein, he's not going to stop now. He's going to go. So the army subsided, they went to the side, and they allowed Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu to leave. Now you must bear in mind that when Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu left Makkah to Mukarramah, he didn't leave expecting war. He didn't leave expecting to fight. He left with his children and the women of his household. So altogether there's 82 of them. Altogether, including the children and the women. There's 82 altogether. And some of these will mention some of the sons of Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu. The first one being Imam Zayn al-Abidin, very commonly known. Imam Zayn al-Abidin radiallahu anhu was with Imam Hussein. He was around 22 years old at that time. And Imam Zayn al-Abidin, he was ill during this journey. And throughout the entire period, he was quite ill. And then the other son of Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu was Ali Akbar. And he was around 18 years old. And the smallest newborn child of Imam Hussein, Ali Asghar. He was a newborn child who was still breastfeeding at that point. He was also taken. And many other members of the house, many notable members of the household, for example, the other brothers of Sayyidina Muslim, Because Sayyidina Muslim radiallahu anhu was the son of Aqil, and Sayyidina Aqil had many children as well. So many of those children also came as well. And a few other notable companions and a few other notable members of the household, they also came with Imam Hussein, and altogether 82 of them went. And they made their way towards Kufa. On their way, they visited many, or they passed through many villages, and they passed through many towns, and they passed through many settlements. And we'll go through these events today, and tomorrow inshallah we'll go through Akana Karbala. So from today will be from today up till Karbala, and tomorrow will be the events at Karbala inshallah. So Sayyidina Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, when he left Makkah to Mukarramah, one of his companions with him, Sayyidina Qais radiallahu anhu, he sent Sayyidina Qais on a faster horse with a message to the people of Kufa saying, I am now on my way, make preparations because I'm going to be there in a few days' time. So he wrote this letter and he sent it with Sayyidina Qais to the people of Kufa. Now when Sayyidina Qais reached to Kufa, he was at this point, Sayyidina Muslim had already been martyred. So Sayyidina Qais, when he reached this place, he saw that the city was very different to how he expected it to be. The situation wasn't favorable. And then Sayyidina Qais, radiallahu anhu, he was taken to Ibn Ziyad. The people captured him and took him to Ibn Ziyad. And Ibn Ziyad gave him a choice. He said, I can either kill you now, or if you begin to criticize Imam Hussein, then I'll let you go. So Sayyidina Qais said, okay, no worries. And he stood on the rooftop and he began to speak to the people. And when he began to speak to the people, he began to praise Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu. And then he also began to praise Sayyidina Ali. He made dua for Sayyidina Ali. And then he began to criticize Ibn Ziyad. So he began to say criticism about Ibn Ziyad. Now Ibn Ziyad, when he heard this, ordered his troops to chuck him off the roof. Now the troops did as they were told, and Sayyidina Qais was also martyred on the spot. So Sayyidina Qais also became shaheed, and he was not able to tell the people or Imam Hussein this is the situation, because Ibn Ziyad would kill anybody who would try to do this. And when Sayyidina Qais reached the Kufa, he also saw that Ibn Ziyad, he was so corrupt and so far from the teaching of Islam that he didn't bury the body of Sayyidina Muslim. He didn't bury the body of Hani. Instead, he wrapped them in ropes and left them hanging in the streets, so that people could see the body of Sayyidina Muslim and Hani as well on the streets. This is how corrupt these individuals were. The regime of Yazid, this is his people, Yazid's people. So this is the situation of Kufa at the moment. And Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu, he wasn't informed, or he didn't know that Sayyidina Qais had been martyred yet. And so they continued their journey towards Kufa. And they reached a place, and they saw that there were a lot of tents around this place. So Sayyidina Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he asked, whose tents are these? Why are these tents here? And he found that there is a person called Zuhair, Sayyidina Zuhair radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And now, Sayyidina Zuhair, initially, he wasn't somebody who loved the Sahaba. He didn't have a lot of love for the Sahaba, so he didn't have a lot of love for the Ahlul Bayt. He was a Muslim, but he didn't possess that much love. He was a Sahabi as well, so he participated in many wars as well. And during his time, he participated in one war with Sayyidina Salman al-Farisi radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And they received a lot of war, they won the battle, they received a lot of war booty from this battle. And they received so much. Sayyidina Zuhair said, I was very, very pleased with this battle, and I was very pleased with the outcome. And Sayyidina Salman al-Farisi said, are you guys pleased with the war booty that we received? And the army replied, yes, we are. And then Sayyidina Salman al-Farisi told them that one day they will come where you will receive more than this, when you will assist the house of the beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you will assist Imam Hussein, and you receive way more than you receive today. So Sayyidina Zuhair radiallahu anhu, Imam Hussein asked to meet with him. And then they had a private meeting, and then Sayyidina Zuhair went back to his tent. He divorced his wife on the spot. He divorced his wife and told his wife to go home. Go back to your home with your brother and go home and leave me here. And then Sayyidina Zuhair gathered his companions and said to his companions that I'm giving you a choice now. You guys can return home and there's no harm for you, or you can stay with me. But if you stay with me, there's a possibility that you'll never return home again. And the people, they were confused that you didn't like the Ahlul Bayt. What's going on now? And Sayyidina Zuhair informed the story about Sayyidina Salman al-Farisi. And he said, I'm going to go with Sayyidina Imam Hussein regardless of what happens. And later on, in the plains of Karbala, Sayyidina Zuhair also achieved martyrdom as well. So Sayyidina Zuhair, from that point onwards, he stayed with Imam Hussein and he traveled towards Karbala. Now, somebody from Kufa was traveling towards Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Imam Hussein, he reached a village and he met this individual, and this individual told him about the situation in Kufa. He said, a Muslim in Aqil had been martyred. And he also told him that Hani had also been martyred as well. Now Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, with a few of his companions, he discussed this, and they decided to travel a bit further. And once they traveled to another point, Imam Hussein stopped the whole group and he told them, he told his group that now Sayyidina Muslim bin Aqil has been martyred. The situation in Kufa is this. And he told his people, he told his family, he told his companions that those who want to return back to their homes, you may now do so. You can do so and there'll be no, I won't say anything to you. You can do so without any guilt. And from the moment he left Makkah to Mukarramah up until this point, quite a few people have joined them on the way. Okay, as mentioned, Zuhair joined them on the way as well. And most of the people that joined him from Makkah to Mukarramah till now, a lot of them left. But those who stayed with him from Medina to Munawwara, all of those stayed with him up until this point. So Sayyidina Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he continued to move forward. And he made camp at a mountain, at the bottom of a mountain. And now we've reached the 1st of Muharram. He really set up camp at the bottom of a mountain, now on the 1st of Muharram, 61 after Hijri. And now a group of Yazid's men, or Ibn Ziyad's men, an army of 1,000 came to meet Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, and it was led by a man called Hur. Now Hur was, he was a peace-loving individual, and so he stayed with Imam Hussein, and they arrived at the time of Dhuhr. The army arrived at the time of Dhuhr. And Imam Hussein noticed that this army of 1,000, their soldiers are very thirsty, and their horses are very thirsty as well. Because traveling during the midday, especially in this sort of area, it's very, very hot and it's very easy to become thirsty. So Imam Hussein, he began to give them water. He gave every single one of them water to drink, and Hur's job, the army's job, was to bring Imam Hussein towards Ibn Ziyad. But when they all received water, they didn't want to do that anymore. They said, look, he's given us water, he's allowed us to drink water, we were very, very thirsty, he's done ihsan upon us, he does something good for us. So they didn't want to say anything to him. And then the adhan for Dhuhr was given, and Imam Hussein, he asked the army that, I'm giving you an option, you can either read behind me, or you can read by yourself. Now Hur, he decided for the army that we all go to read behind you, Imam Hussein. So they all read Salatul Dhuhr, and they went back to their respective camps. And then the time for Asr came, and they began, and then again, behind Imam Hussein, the two groups read behind Imam Hussein, and they read the Asr Salah. After Salatul Asr, Imam Hussein stood up, and he faced the people. And he said to the people, that, oh people, if you fear Allah, and you recognize the people of truth, then you shall gain the pleasure of the Almighty Allah. And those who are governing you with oppression, meaning Yazid and Ibn Ziyad, those who are there, they are not worthy of the Khilafat. They are not worthy of the Caliphate. So, and the people of Kufa called me to take bayat at my hands. So now you can either stop me, or you can allow me to continue. Imam Hussein, he emptied the sack of letters in front of Hur. So all the petitions that people signed, 1,200 letters that we mentioned before, the people of Kufa signed these letters saying, we want Imam Hussein to come to Kufa. So he emptied these letters in front of Hur, and he told Hur, look, this is what the people of Kufa have asked for. They've asked for me to come. And Hur, he looked at these letters and said, I have no knowledge of these letters. I have not written letter myself, and I don't know of any letters that have been written. And Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he told him that these are the letters from the people of Kufa asking me to come. What is your purpose with me now? And Hur replied that I've been commanded by Ibn Ziyad to take you to him. And Imam Hussein said that you're not going to take me to him. You would rather die than take me to Ibn Ziyad. I mean, it's an impossibility for you to take me to Ibn Ziyad. But Hur said, it's my command, I must do so. I have to take you towards Kufa, towards Ibn Ziyad. And Imam Hussein, on this altercation, they kept talking back and forth like this. Eventually, Hur gave some advice. He said, if you're not going to go to Kufa, then at least travel in a direction where you're not going towards Kufa, nor are you going back towards home. So travel in a neutral direction. And this way, keep traveling in this direction, until I receive some news from Ibn Ziyad, until Ibn Ziyad tells me what to do further. So Imam Hussein, he admired this advice and he accepted it, and so he took his people and they began to go in a direction towards Karbala. He didn't know he was going towards Karbala, but they were traveling in that direction. So as they were traveling in this direction, they reached another place which was close to Kufa. And a rider was seen coming from Kufa. And this rider, Imam Hussein, he thought he was coming towards us. But the rider completely skipped past Imam Hussein and went to the army of Hur. Went to Hur and his army. And he gave them a letter. This letter was directly from Ibn Ziyad. And Ibn Ziyad gave some orders saying, you either kill Imam Hussein or you bring him towards me. These are your two options. Either kill him or bring him towards me and towards Kufa. Now Hur, he was also given the orders that the individual that brought this letter to you, he's now going to watch your every move. If you do anything against Ibn Ziyad, I'm going to go tell Ibn Ziyad straight away and he's going to deal with you afterwards. So Hur was now under supervision basically. So when Hur told Imam Hussein that this was going on, and Imam Hussein said, let us continue going further, Hur said, I can't let you go further now. I have to let you stay here because if I let you go further, then my life is at stake now. So Imam Hussein, he pleaded saying, let us go just a bit more further and then we'll stop. And then Hur said, okay. He let him go further and they reached a land which is very barren. There was no trees, no grass, no shelter, no water. There was nothing there. And it was very dry land as well. And when they reached this land, Imam Hussein asked the people, what is this land? Where are we now? The people replied, now we're in Karbala. And then Imam Hussein, he stopped his horse and he dismounted. He got up and he said, this is Karbala, the place of Karb and the place of Bala, the place of pain and the pain of anguish, and then the place of anguish, and the place of Bala, so the place of illnesses as well. And Imam Hussein said that this is where our horses will stop, this is where our luggage will stay, and this is where we will be martyred. Imam Hussein says this. So he knew of Karbala as well himself. They knew that this is the place where him and his household will be martyred as well. So Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he stayed in Karbala, and now in the 2nd of Muharram. When they entered Karbala, this was the 2nd of Muharram. Now, what happened after this was that another group, Ibn Ziyad sent an army towards Iran. Because there's an uprising in Iran, there's a rebellion in Iran. And this individual who was sent, the leader of the army, was Ibn Sa'ad. Ibn Sa'ad was the son of a Sahabi, and his father was one of the Ashar al-Mubashara. So Ibn Sa'ad knew Imam Hussein was a great personality. He respected Ahlul Bayt, and he was told that once he comes back from the rebellion, once he comes back from sorting out what happened in Iran, then he'll be given a governing body, he'll be given a governing place. So he'll become a governor in a city. So Ibn Sa'ad, as he was traveling towards Iran, Ibn Ziyad sent somebody else towards him, tell him, go towards Karbala now. Forget Iran for the moment, go towards Karbala. And he was told, because Imam Hussein is in Karbala, you need to deal with him over there. Now Ibn Sa'ad said, I can't go to Karbala, because Imam Hussein is there. I cannot do anything to Imam Hussein. He's from the house of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Ibn Ziyad said, you either go to Karbala now, or forget about your position in the government. Forget about it. So Ibn Sa'ad said, give me a day to think about this. He spent the day thinking, and unfortunately, the greed for dunya, the greed for the world gripped Ibn Sa'ad, and he turned his army towards Karbala. And his army consisted of 4,000 people. So Hur's army had 1,000 men already, fully equipped with weapons and everything. Ibn Sa'ad's army had 4,000 men. So now we have 5,000 people at Karbala now. And then Ibn Ziyad, he was so fearful of Imam Hussein, because he knew that Imam Hussein was the son of Sayyidina Ali. And he knew that he brought many people from the house of Sayyidina Ali as well. And we know of the Hydri blood. We know that Sayyidina Ali is not something to be messed with. And same goes with his companions, same goes with his relatives as well. And they are no small people, even though there's only 82 of them. Ibn Ziyad eventually gathered an army which is about 20,000 people. 20,000 fully equipped, swords, shields, armory, everything. Fully equipped. Imam Hussein didn't have this equipment that they did. Imam Hussein left Makkah to Mukarramah without thinking about war. He didn't think that we're going to fight. He came in peace. So he didn't have the weaponry that the army had. And yet the army was 20,000. This is how fearful Ibn Ziyad was. This is how afraid he was of Imam Hussein. Now, the army of 20,000, even though there's 20,000 of them, the army itself, their morale was quite low. Because they were facing Imam Hussein in his household. So they knew even one dua could destroy them. They knew that one dua could destroy the entire army. And so they were very fearful, and their morale was quite low. So Ibn Sa'd, he appointed 500 men to cut off the water supply. And this happened on the 7th of Muharram. On the 7th of Muharram, 500 men went towards the river and ensured that nobody could now access the water. None of the companions of Imam Hussein could now drink water. So for 3 days, from the 7th of Muharram onwards, the family of Imam Hussein and his companions, they had no access to water. And remember, the plains of Karbala is very hot as well. The land was dry and there was no food in the land either. There was no greenery. So for 7 days they were deprived. So for 3 days they were deprived of water. They were deprived of food as well. So this was the situation which Imam Hussein was put in. Now Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he requested a meeting with Ibn Sa'd. Remember, Ibn Sa'd and his army, they tented up on one side, and Imam Hussein was on the other side. And during the night, Imam Hussein requested Ibn Sa'd to meet with him. And they both came to each other with 20 horsemen, and Imam Hussein and Ibn Sa'd, they discussed privately, they discussed 3 things privately. Imam Hussein said to him, I'm giving you 3 choices. First and foremost, allow me to go back to where I came from. That's my first proposition. The second proposition, if you don't want to accept that, then at least take me to the border where I can now live peacefully, and I won't interfere with Yazid and his people. I won't interfere with the Khilafat of Yazid. I stay on the border and I live a peaceful life. And the third proposition that you have is that take me to Yazid in Damascus. Because Yazid, he was residing in Damascus at that time, in Syria. So take me to Yazid in Damascus and let me talk to him one-on-one. And let me try to solve the situation. Now when Ibn Sa'd, when he heard these 3 things, he thought that look, Imam Hussein is not here for war. He's not here for a rebellion. He's not here to cause trouble. So he wrote all this down. He sent this towards Ibn Ziyad. Now Ibn Ziyad, back in Kufa, he opened the letter and he heard this. Rather, he read this. When he read this, he thought the same thing as Ibn Sa'd. He thought that, look, Imam Hussein is not here to cause any problems. He's not here to cause a rebellion. Rather, he's here to sort a problem out. So Ibn Ziyad, briefly, he thought, let's follow this proposition, let's allow this to happen. He's willing to accept the 3 conditions. And one of his advisors was there with him, a person called Shimar. Now Shimar, he said to Ibn Ziyad, that remember this Imam Hussein you're talking about. He may be saying this to you, but he may be doing something else completely. So basically he's implanting to Ibn Ziyad that still Imam Hussein is coming to take over control, and he's going to take over control from Yazid, and he's going to take all the people of Kufa, and he's going to attack you with it. This was Shimar to Ibn Ziyad. And for that brief moment that Ibn Ziyad had, where he's going to accept the propositions, he turned back on that now. And he wrote another letter to Ibn Sa'd saying, do not accept these propositions, either hand over the army to Shimar, or you yourself will have to fight Imam Hussein. So now Shimar, the person who gave this evil thought to Ibn Ziyad, he took the letter and he went towards Ibn Sa'd. Now when Ibn Sa'd, when he heard that Ibn Ziyad did not accept this, he knew that Shimar told him this. He knew that Shimar changed his mind. So Ibn Sa'd became very angry at Shimar, saying, how dare you do something like this? This is the house of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but still you are doing this. And then Shimar said, you only have 2 options. Either go back to Ibn Ziyad yourself, or you allow me to take control of the army. And Ibn Sa'd, again, the greed of the world gripped him, and he said, forget about you, I will lead this army. And they began making preparation that night to deal with Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And so the sound of preparation that night was quite loud. So Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, on the 9th of Muharram, in his tent, he was sleeping. And he was slept in such a position where his blessed head was on his knees. So he brought his knees up and he slept in this position. And as he was sleeping, the noise from the other camp was quite loud. So one of the women of his household, Sayyidah Zainab radiallahu anha, she came in and she awoke Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he said that he has just seen a dream where he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He saw Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that soon you are going to come towards us. Meaning, your departure from the world is soon. So Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, he received glad tidings from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that soon you are going to come towards us. And he narrated this dream to the woman of his household, and they began to cry. This is a catastrophe. But Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu told them to remain patient. Have patience, and this is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Follow and have faith in the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, in that night, he assigned a few of his companions, and he told his companions to go to the army of Ibn Sa'ad and tell them that, look, give us one night so that we can worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Give us one night to make repentance. Give us one night to recite whatever we want, and then you can do whatever you want with us in the morning. So he sent Sayyidina Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu to the other army, and they gave the proposition, and Ibn Sa'ad accepted. He said, okay, we'll give you the night. And Imam Hussein spent the entire night worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine this, he knew that tomorrow is the day where his family, his companions, the women of his household, his children, they're going to be martyred tomorrow. He knew this. And yet, instead of preparing that night, he left it in the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He left it in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he just worshipped the entire night. He sought istighfar, he made repentance, he recited countless durood upon Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and he made a lot of dua that night as well. And then he assigned some men to dig a trench behind the camps. I mean, behind the camp of Imam Hussein, they dug a trench, they dug a hole. And in this hole, they lit this hole so that there's fire in this hole now. So what this meant was that if anybody tried to come behind the tents of Imam Hussein, they wouldn't be able to attack the house from behind. They just had to be from straight on. So this was the wisdom of Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And then he gathered his companions. This night he gathered his companions, and he said to them, he praised Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He sent salawat upon Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then he thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for teaching him the Quran, for sending Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for allowing them to gather there today. And it's a very emotional speech that he gave to his companions. And the gist was that he said to his people that, I do not know anybody on the entire earth who is more loyal than you people. You knew that you were going to come to this place. You knew that this is going to happen. You knew that this was going to be the events. Yet still you stayed firm. And still you stayed with me. I don't know anybody who's more loyal than you. Allah have sent mercy upon every single one of you. And this is a very emotional time for every single one of them. And he said to them that, look, these people only want me. They only want me. So if you want to leave now, any one of you can do so. And the brothers of Sayyidina Muslim bin Aqil radiallahu ta'ala anhu, they all stood up and they said, we can't leave you now. We can't, after traveling all this way, after knowing that our brother has been martyred by Ibn Ziyad and his men, we can't leave you anymore. Now we must fight. This is our only option now. And many other of his companions, they give similar words as well. And some of the Sahaba, some of his companions were so, ready to be martyred. One of them mentions, and Sayyidina Zuhair, radiallahu ta'ala, he mentions, and he said that I wish that I am martyred and then I am resurrected again. And then I'm martyred again and then resurrected again. He said this cycle continued forever and ever, just so that I can protect you and your family. This is how, Jazbati, this is how passionate they were about protecting Imam Hussein and his family. They said that I'd rather be killed over and over and over again, just so that I can protect the family of Imam Hussein radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Imam Hussein radiallahu anhu, after seeing the passion of his companions, they began to worship the entire night. And in the morning they would face the army of Ibn Sa'ad. And that's what we're going to speak about tomorrow, inshallah. وَمَا عَلِمْنَا الْبَلَاغُ الْمُبِينَ وَالْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ جَزَاكَ اللَّهُ خَيْرًا.